Welcome to CSC Agility Platform. Today we'll be discussing how to modify a running virtual machine's hardware. Many of our customers have asked for the ability to change the underlying CPU or memory for a virtual machine. Let's talk about what can and can't be done. Let's begin. We'll log into an existing Agility Platform instance with a user who has the ability to get into the design perspective that'll let us make changes to virtual machines and templates. That user for this case is the admin user, and we'll log in successfully and wait for the screen to show up. We'll switch over to the designer's perspective. And we'll wait for the perspective to come up. And on the left side of the screen, we'll look for the two projects that we've created virtual machines in. I have HotAdd AWS and HotAdd VMware, because today I'd like to be able to show our Amazon possibilities and also our VMware possibilities. If we open up the AWS site, we can see that this particular virtual machine is running with 2 compute units and 0.6 gigabytes, probably 768. And if we ask to change the virtual machine, there's not much to change. Again, these changes have to be done at the template level. So you can see we can modify some things, but not what we're really looking for. So let's go back to the template level and choose change. As you can see, we can see this. Now we change to the resources on the left side, and I can see currently what hardware is exposed virtually to this machine. It's a micro model for AWS, 2 compute units or 2 virtual CPUs, and about 768 gigabytes of RAM, 0.6 if you want to round up. If I choose change, then I have the ability to change between these instances that I have available to me, micro, small, medium, and so on. Let's change to a large instance, which will give 4 CPUs and 7.5 gigabytes worth of RAM. Now notice what happens when we choose save. The cloud partner does not support on the fly. You will have to release and reprovision the instance. That means that unless you've got the hard disk saved or blocked from termination, you'll actually blow away everything that you've built. And so this doesn't really work. This isn't really a change of a virtual machine. That'll actually destroy the entire virtual machine itself and rebuild it. It can be useful, but it's not very different from just creating a new virtual machine with the size that you were looking for. Let's do the same thing over on the VMware side. Again, let's take a look at the project that's running on VMware, and I can see how much memory that I've got. And let's go to and choose change. Same thing, we'll choose resources on the left, and I can zoom in and see what it's consuming. 1 core and 16 gigs of RAM. And then again, the same thing. Choose change. We have the ability to, 2 gigs of RAM. And now we have the ability to change to a different size for 8 with 4 compute units or so on. So we'll change to 8 gigs of RAM and 2 compute units. Again, we get a different message now. Let's zoom in on that. You can see we have to restart, but we don't actually have to reprovision or release, which means the virtual machine that we're running on does go through a reboot, but doesn't actually lose its place in the virtual machine world. So it's just like a regular reboot for a patch or something else like that. So we'll choose yes. And if we look down at the task list, we can see that choosing that automatically then restarts that virtual machine. And if we wait for a bit, it should complete its reboot cycle and come back. And we're back. Zoom in. Now we can see we've got 8 gigs of RAM and 2 processors. And now we're exposing, which means we're now exposing this new hardware to the operating system inside the virtual machine. Now this is useful, but it requires full access to the designer perspective. It's not frequently we want to expose to customers or to users. We'd rather actually guide them into a store-based or launchpad-based version of changing the underlying hardware for a virtual machine. And that's what the Cloud plugin does for us in the Agility Platform and BizCloud world. So as you can see, I'll log into an Agility Platform server that's got BizCloud enabled, and you can see I had that performance window at the bottom. And if I choose one of my projects, I can drill into its topology, and I can see at the bottom it's running on a VMware instance. It's got 1 core and 2 gigs of RAM. I can see its public and private IPs if necessary. And then these blue boxes at the top give me the ability to change its configuration, what services I provide, and what storage I provide as well. Let's choose configuration. Again, we saw the same sort of thing. 2 gigs is what I've got. I can go to 4, 8, or 8 with 4 compute units. So if I choose the 8 gigs of RAM, 4 compute units, I can choose OK. Let's examine the error message again. This may require a restart, again, not a release. And we'll say yes. And up at the top right, you can see the restart process begins. That's that error message that pops up very rapidly. Or indicator message. Not all messages are errors. In the instance of time compression, we'll probably jump forward in a little bit. And we can see that we're starting now. And we're up. And as you can see, processor is now up to 4 cores, memory up to 8 gigs, and we've got this running. And again, this was done through the store to consume this original virtual machine or blueprint, and then we just managed through the Launchpad getting in the topology and making these changes as well. So you can actually offer very limited access to these virtual machines. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see further videos, visit our SharePoint site at Cloud Training. If you'd like more formal training, visit us at aptraining.csc.com. And if you have questions or comments, please give us an email at training@servicemesh.com.